So hello everyone and welcome to the Member Services Roundtable on April 3rd at 1 p.m. Pacific time. I am Megan Choiniere, the Oakland University Member Services Coordinator, and I have a couple of people joining me today that are going to be my co-hosts. So they are Taylor Schiller, Victoria Roberts, and Melissa Bates. They'll introduce themselves in a little bit. So first we're just going to do some household items. We're going to go over a little overview. So the session is being recorded and will be posted on NIRSA's website. Please ensure you are muted just so that we can hear everyone. Use the chat box if you have any questions or comments. And then after this, we definitely can continue to utilize the NIRSA Connect board for future conversations or even have more of these roundtables in a couple weeks. So some of the guidelines, pretty straightforward. Let's make this a safe space for everyone. Let's respect all attendees' concerns. As we know with COVID-19, we're all at very different spots in our responses and also where our states are at. So let's be respectful to everyone in their different phases. As I said, this room is supposed to be a no judgment space and it's supposed to be valuable so you can take some stuff back to your own schools. So we're gonna start off by letting the ladies that are joining me introduce themselves and talk about their position, and then we'll get started.
I'm Taylor Schiller, like Megan mentioned before, Member Services Manager at Virginia Tech. I've been in my role for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years at this point. Directly oversee memberships, student staff, about 60 students, all registration sales in our business office, and then kind of oversee Fusion, and then student development for our department. A little bit about me.
I'm Melissa Bates. I'm currently at Southern Oregon University. I'm Assistant Director of Operations and Fitness. I've been in this role for 2 years, and I oversee all of memberships. I have 45 students who also work with operations and memberships as well, and I look forward to chatting with you all today.
That leaves me. I'm Victoria. I work for Clemson University. I'm the Associate Director for Member Services and Aquatics. I have been there for about, actually popped up today, 7 years. So that's pretty exciting. Directly oversee member services, our certification processes, along with many other things like I'm sure most of you have as well.
Okay, so we're gonna take a quick poll just to kind of see who's on the call. So you will see a poll pop up, just kind of explaining the size of the university you're at, if you're public or private. And then also a couple other questions about what your level of experience is and if you directly oversee membership. So that should be popping up soon. And then we'll get started with our conversation. Obviously, like we said earlier, it's kind of an open conversation today. If you have anything to add, please add it to the chat. Melissa's going to be monitoring it and calling you out if there's something in there that we find interesting. So don't put it in there unless you don't want to talk about it. And then we're gonna go from there. I think maybe the poll will pop up. Perfect.
There we go.
And then you will see the results in just a second. We'll give you each time a little bit to fill it out just to get a feel who's on the call. Also feel free to put in the chat box like who you are and what school you're from, because that is not part of this. And then when you do speak, let us know what institution you're from. Everyone good on that? Can we see our results? Thumbs up if you're good. Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
So Victoria, if you want to go over the results real quick, we'll go to our first question after that.
Yeah, so it looks like about 10% of you are from small schools, good to know. 42, kind of that intermediate size. 49, large schools, great. 89% public schools, 13% private. Good mix of professionals. Love to see it. Some students on here. Great taking advantage of this. Grad assistants, about 42% coordinators, 32% assistant directors, 9% associate directors, and 7% directors. Most of you, 82% directly oversee member services, 19% do not. If you don't, go ahead and drop it in the chat what your direct role is and kind of why you stumbled upon this virtual meeting. And going off of, has your institution made a decision on memberships? It looks like 10% of you are refunding the full amount. A majority, 48%, refunding a prorated amount. I'm in that boat too. 17% not providing refunds at all. And then 38% of you are still in that gray zone, unclear at this time. All right.
Okay, so with that in mind, we're just gonna kind of start off our chat. When all of this started about in your universities, how did you communicate with your members about your facility closures or what was going on? And then when did you communicate? Because obviously there was different communication coming at probably, it seemed like every minute to every hour. So just seeing how we were gonna update them and give them the most accurate feedback.
You can also see in the chats are the poll results that came up.
So I can start. At Oakland University, we're in Michigan, so we're kind of a hot spot right now. And about 3 weeks ago, we were shut down by our governor. All gyms and rec centers, all fitness facilities were closed down. So we were told probably about 10 o'clock in the morning that that was going to happen. There was a conversation with our upper administration on if we had to follow executive orders or not, if we were immune to that. And then it wasn't decided until 2:45 that we were going to close at 3 o'clock. So we had to send a pretty quick message out to our members. We did this via Emma. It's Emma Marketing. It is a mass email communication program. So we were able to communicate with everyone that we were closing. In the meantime, though, we were telling everyone over the phone we were still going to be open. So it definitely had its challenges for sure. But as we sent out this communication, we really wanted to work on making sure we're giving accurate communication. So when was our open date going to be? Originally, the governor had a set day, as probably most of your states did as well. And then that date kept getting pushed. So we did end up changing our communication a little bit to actually giving definite dates to saying until further notice, just so our members were informed. So that's kind of how it happened. We probably sent that email out about 5 o'clock after we closed at 3 o'clock that day, which wasn't maybe the most timely, but at the same time, wanting to make sure that we gave that accurate information.
Hey, I have Shari Landmark from South Dakota State said that South Dakota State are extending refunds, but on a case-by-case basis, but they're extending the memberships. That's a lot like what we're doing at Southern Oregon University for the memberships. We closed our facility on March 16th. It's actually before the governor had given the order to close all gyms, but we decided to close it at 4 and we closed the facility at 6 p.m. and we sent out alerts or notification that night as soon as we were able to, and then we followed it up with a lot of social media as well. So I was wondering if, Shari, you could extend a little bit more about what you all are doing.
Sure. Hi, this is actually Ellen Lowe on Shari's account. But
Okay.
hi. Okay, so yeah, we closed on Friday, March 13th at 5 p.m. And we are open to the community members as well. So we serve our campus community as well as our community. So extending the memberships, meaning that as whatever duration we do end up staying closed for, that's how long we will be extending the memberships. My daughter's joining me on this account too. So we don't know when that open date is yet, but when let's say it is June 1st, then we will extend it, those 2.5 months and just add that time on to the end of their memberships.
Shari, do you guys have just students in your facility? Is it open to faculty, staff, alumni, community? And maybe just talk about, are you just kind of honoring if you say, hey, I was a member before and giving that extension, or are you doing it through a software system potentially?
Yeah, we are open to students, faculty, staff, and the community as well. And we use the Fusion software to manage all of our memberships. So we are just using that records that we have to extend the memberships and all of their information.
Great, thanks.
I have a quick follow-up question for folks who are saying that they're doing things on case by case. How are you managing that? Like a Google form, through email? Just how are you, I guess, centralizing all of that information or getting it to you, I guess?
We at Oakland have a Google form that we already use for our refunds. So any person who is direct emailing me, so we did send out a membership email yesterday that had my direct contact on it. So fun, but so we've been dealing with that. So I've been sending that form out for our individuals. We as well are extending based off of the time period. We have not even used any language about refunds. Just a little background, all of our fees are paid through our tuition, so it's all a lump sum. So we're not refunding tuition because Oakland University is open as usual. So with our community members, we did just open up about 3 years ago. We are offering those refund forms based off request. We have a typical refund policy. Obviously, in these times, we do have to kind of weigh what we consider, I guess, a valid response, but it was originally based off of relocation, lack of funds, or illness. So that's kind of what we're still trying to stick with, and making sure that they do understand lockers, memberships, all of that are open still to be extended.
I actually, oh, sorry. Hi,
Go ahead, Christy.
Christy from the University of North Georgia, Dahlonega, Georgia. Probably have no idea where that is, but so I don't know if other states are doing this, but in Georgia, all of our correspondence with anyone has to go through up to the system office. Is that happening in other states too?
Yeah, I think at Clemson, we're being very strategic with what we send out to our members. Obviously, we don't want to give false information or, a lot of these decisions are made at the top level. So our decision to refund things, we couldn't just say, yeah, we're going to refund all these memberships if they weren't going to make the decision to refund student fees for housing and dining and things like that. So there was a lot of question marks in the air until those top levels kind of made those decisions trickle down.
Thank you.
Anybody else with that, like that all communication has to go through upper administration? I know I've had conversations with a couple of you that you were not able to have your own member messages, that it did need to come out from the university.
We did have to send, at Southern Oregon University, we did have to send our main correspondence through the university-wide email. We aren't able to do that ourselves, but then we did also use Fusion to send it out to our members. And since I don't have very many members, we're a small school, I was able to do personal memberships to those who are on payroll deduction and then those who had paid cash, check, or credit card. So, but the main communication had to go through the University of Marketing.
Hey, I'm Kelly with University of Cincinnati. So we actually had to go through our upper management as well in order to get communication out. And we actually didn't fully communicate what was happening to our people until Monday. So we actually closed on the 14th and we had emails drafted and redrafted and drafted again, but they didn't let us send it out until Monday. So that was really hard. And we haven't seen a lot of pushback with it yet, but we actually closed on the 14th, and they're not actually having us prorate our refunds until the 25th. So we definitely have, because that's what other areas of campus are doing, like parking, and we're campus services, so we go through like a whole group. So it's kind of a different scenario for us too, but we definitely have seen a little bit of frustration from us as far as needing to get the higher ups to approve those emails.
Okay, so I did notice in the chat, if no one else wants to chime in on that, Scott Wagner, you mentioned that you guys stopped your payroll deductions and EFTs, and it looks like a lot of people have done the same thing. Have you guys looked into your systems to make sure it's not back charging people? How are you handling those fees on that end?
Well, Megan, we took the easy road because our internal IT department actually charges all payroll deductions through university payroll, but all the auto debits they run through Card Connect. So essentially what we're doing is for the month of April, our IT department will just mysteriously forget to do those charges, and they will continue to forget to do those charges until we come back. We didn't go into the system and suspend accounts. We could have done it that way, but we just figured it was easier just to forget about doing it until we come back.
I figured that's how you guys were doing it. Anyone else on that? Like, I will say payroll deduction was not on my radar at all. I happened to catch it right before they were about to be charged for the month of April. So does anybody else have anything on that?
Hi, everybody, from University of Florida. We got, I think I sent an email out in the discussion board, and Walter from Emory actually responded and said that he had been able to pause payroll deductions, which was the first time that I had thought about it too. We checked with our payroll services department, and unfortunately there's no way to pause them, as any pausing would look like a stop or a cancellation. So we have communicated to our members. We closed on a Friday at 10 p.m. So I think we sent communication out by about 6 p.m. via MailChimp, and just let them know that all of our members specifically, not students, that we were not going to be processing any refund requests due to the closures, but that memberships on payroll deduction could be canceled at any time, which is true with our policy. However, any students or members who have reached out to me wanting a refund, I've tried to work with them to allow them to still get a refund if they fit one of our 3 refund policies, which is a medical circumstance, moving out of the county, or separating from the university. There have been maybe 1 or 2 situations where someone has needed a refund due to hardships from the closures and from the current situation, and we've tried to work with them as best as possible. But for the most part, we are business as usual.
This is Monica Towner, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. We have been very fortunate that our payroll department for campus works really closely with our business office in Campus Rec. So they actually rewrote a code so we could temporarily pause payroll deductions. And then we're also working with our SIRs, our retiree managers as well, to pause those. So we typically would not offer a pause or suspension type of system, but in this case, we thought it was the best option. We sent out an email to our members, to all members, and had payroll deduction information along with the other membership information. So we are providing a credit to those accounts who want to roll over. So we offer a spring membership that ends May 15th. So if someone was on that spring membership, we're gonna put a credit on their CSI account automatically, so that if they choose to purchase a summer membership or fall membership whenever we reopen, we can deduct it from whatever that charge would be. And then if there's someone who is like a student spouse or something like that, to where they're not going to be here past May, then we would offer them the refund. But we told them that we would not process any refunds until we determined when we would reopen. So I think at this point we'll be closed past that May 15th. So we'll have to start processing those pretty quickly, but it kind of gives us some different touch points. So those May memberships that end in May versus those that end in August, we kind of have a couple different waves of refunds or processes to kind of look at.
So I saw Mackenzie Lucia mentioned that you are doing credit card refunds from home for those, I guess, who have paid with credit cards. I was wondering if you could speak a little more on that, because of the refund requests that I've had, they've all been credit cards, and our bursar, our accountant, are requiring me to come on campus and do those credit card refunds. So I'm really curious about this, and if I can do this, I'd rather do this.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's been a game changer. We've been approved by business services on campus and our financial team with Rec Well to do this. So I did have to go to campus and grab it and get it set up on my personal, or not my personal, my work computer. But it was just that simple. We use Fusion and Freedom Pay, so connecting all, it's been fine. We set up the phone calls, and sharing my calendar with them has been helpful with just organizing the logistics of setting it up. And then just doing manual card entry into the credit card machine. It's been huge. Now our members don't have to wait until we reopen, which is a main concern of theirs. They want their money now, and rightfully so. But that's for all program areas, memberships, whatever's been approved that was credit card. So our cash ones are still done through campus, and there's a backlog on that. But that's kind of how it works.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's amazing that you can do that. I see the chat's kind of blowing up. A lot of people who the payments were online are able to do the online refunds. I don't know if Marianne from UGA, do you guys have Fusion as well? What is your software program that you're using?
Yes, we have Fusion, and it's actually kind of routed through a portal called TouchNet, which is what Central Campus uses. And anyone who pays online, we can process those refunds online as long as they've paid us within the last 6 months. After that, it has to be done in person, which we cannot do in person ones right now until we reopen.
Same with us. We're cutting checks for everything at the moment, which it's causing like an 8 to 12 week backlog, which also might be an incentive for members to keep their membership. So that is an interesting approach. I really like that. Anybody else with payments, refunding, EFTs or anything like that at the moment?
Yeah, this is Beth Keith from Miami University in Ohio. And a couple of people have mentioned what software that they use, and it sounds like Fusion is a little bit more popular. We unfortunately use a system called Max Galaxy, and I had to manually cancel and move everybody's deductions for hundreds, eventually thousands of members. I was wondering, was anybody else in that boat, or just me? And I don't wish it on anybody else.
So I use RecTrack at Oakland University. So we're in a very similar situation. We can pause, like we don't have electronic fund transfers at the moment. We're actually in the process of transitioning to Fusion right now. So that is something we're moving towards. But we currently only do in-person payments. So ours is the same way. It's going to be hundreds if people do request those refunds and checks, but otherwise it's going to be hand entering hundreds of extensions. So you are not alone.
Okay. It's brutal, but we are very lucky that we could automatically send out notifications to the members, and we automatically told them you won't be charged for April. Actually, I've already changed it to not deduct for May too. And we told all annual members that we will extend on the end whenever we know how the length of the closure is. And luckily that kind of bypasses our payroll deduction as well, because only our annual memberships go that way. So they were, confident that they can get reimbursed, if you will, or get the credit for that. But that's the downside, is definitely moving all those individually one at a time. Thanks.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move into another topic. Let's talk about, I know there's probably some of you on here that have decided to not refund any student fees or anything like that. Are there people, I know LSU mentioned the other day in the directors meeting that they were thinking about extending student memberships because they're not offering those fees back. Is anybody else thinking about doing that? I know at Oakland we are doing
that. Christy from University of North Georgia again. So for our rec center fee, we are not doing any reimbursements on that because that fee goes specifically towards the bond on our building. So therefore they didn't get any of that, but they do get part, I think like 41% refund of their student activity fee. But as far as the rec center fee itself, no student got a refund on that because of it going towards the bond.
So when we're talking refunds and that decision-making process, how many of you, or if anybody wants to speak, was it made at a department level or was it up to your department to kind of make that decision versus at a university or divisional level?
I would like to speak on what Southern Oregon University did. I had to go through our board of trustees because the incidental fees were cut by 20% and the recreation fee was cut by 47%. But that had to go up through not only just our higher administration with our VPs and president, but also the board of trustees before that could happen. And we are cutting or discounting the rec fee 47% for the spring term.
Hi, I'm Christine from Purdue University. For us, it's been kind of interesting. So we actually have refunded all of our programs already. So anything that we weren't able to host, learn to swim, anything that cut, we did about 929 refunds over a week and a half. There's 4 of us that did it. And we were able to do it from home, which is really awesome for both online and in-person payments. For our memberships though, specifically, we're on a freeze. Our university is tying our hands because they have not decided what they're doing with student fees yet. So we're not able to refund any type of membership for access sake. We've been able to do personal training sessions, group fitness passes, but everything as far as access goes, they're not allowing us to make a decision. So we're hoping in the next week to have some more guidance because we have a lot of students, like part-time students that purchase memberships that really could use those funds. So it's put us in a really hard spot right now to just make sure, like, we want people to know we're trying to take care of it, but we haven't been given direction yet. So
we're in Taylor from Virginia Tech. We're also in the very similar boat to that. It's been frustrating. I am trying my best to just manage the questions and the comments from patrons that are just coming in at this point. So, God, I had a question. Yes. So I guess for anyone who's in a similar boat like that, as you're waiting on information from the university to trickle down to make these decisions or information from your directors, how are you staying in contact with patrons? What are you sending them? Do you have any virtual programming that you're doing? Kind of just things like that. I just want to get some ideas of how I can stay in communication with my members, even when memberships, I don't have an answer on refunds and stuff like that. Just a question.
We've communicated that out to members, simply to say, like, we don't have an answer yet. We are starting to think ahead. We're trying to come up with an answer. We will let you know as soon as we do have an answer. And that's helped some. Same thing with our refunds that we haven't been able to process for programs. We've said, like, hey, we know you are owed this refund of this amount, but we can't process it until the university reopens. So as soon as campus reopens, we'll be in touch and we will move forward. And that's helped a lot of our patrons feel a little bit more comfortable. They've said, okay, as long as we know it's being thought about, we can hold.
Thank you.
Taylor, something else we're doing at Purdue is we send a weekly newsletter out. So we started this immediately because we know communication is the most important for our members right now. We don't want to not talk to them for weeks on end and then, let them know the news. We also update our website with that. I personally am getting our phone forwarded to my cell phone right now during closure. Our university expects us to have a live person for them to talk to. So it's kind of, I feel like I'm on repeat all the time with what I say, but For email purposes, we have 3 different generic templates that we just utilize, and someone helps me navigate that communication. But we have one for people that specifically reach out about student fees, because that is something to the bursar, not through us. And then we have 2 different communications about, we're waiting for university direction. So we had to get approval from not only our director, but also his boss in order to like what we were saying to our members. But we've been using those templates, and then really just our newsletter. And with our newsletters, where we're putting all of our virtual programming as well. So it's not only the bad news of, hey, we still don't have answers, but it's also, this is what we're kind of doing in the meantime. This is how we're trying to take care of you. Human capital is like our biggest, most important right now, especially for all of us. And that's all we can offer kind of at this point. So that's what we've been doing.
Thank you.
So I guess kind of moving along, how many of you guys are using this time to kind of reboot what your memberships look like? Maybe to re-examine, are we going to open to the community now because we need that extra revenue? Or maybe to say, we're getting rid of the community members that have maybe been a thorn in our side? Or, how many of you are out there or want to speak on what you guys are doing? Or if you haven't thought about that yet, wheels are turning.
Well, SOU is opening it up to community membership starting at the new fiscal year, July 1st. Hopefully we will be open then. But if not, we'll be ready to extend memberships finally to our the Ashland community. And we're looking forward to that extra revenue too.
So we opened to Oakland, like I said earlier, about 2 years ago to the community. This kind of goes off that question. Like, we had a very interesting conversation right before we closed. So when we thought we were staying open, I had to make the very hard decision to say we are no longer selling any new memberships to the community, that we're only going to let in our guest passes, swim passes, all. So that was very hard for us. That's a huge revenue generation for our department, and we heavily depend on that revenue to cover other costs. So we did make the decision prior to closing that we were going to stop all new incoming memberships. That was even any employee who didn't already receive a free membership, because a lot of our faculty staff, it's part of their benefits. So our non-benefits eligible, we weren't accepting anyone new. So that was definitely a hard and I think very emotional conversation for our department, because we are so used to, we just made this change and we're like opening our arms and working very hard to keep those community members happy. We just had sent out a membership survey, so we were definitely like all in for these community members. I think as we open, and this was a conversation we had this morning, we are going to have to hold off on reopening our building to community members for the time being. Like, it's not going to go away forever, but making sure that we're keeping, our current community safe, because I've heard in a lot of calls, like, we're no longer in a sprint, this is a marathon, and it's going to be the little decisions we make going forward that's really going to affect how we can stay open as a building.
So in the chat, I see Anna Champion is, they're rethinking things in the processes of memberships. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more on that, kind of talk to the group about that. And then there were some others that I want to get some more information from you on as well.
Sure. So can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. Well, I actually just joined on at Auburn University at Montgomery. So it's been about 6 weeks now. Actually, I'm sorry, 8 weeks now. And our membership process, we are open to, we do faculty staff draft, payroll deduction. We also do alumni, and we call them friends of AUM, which is pretty much anyone in the community can come in and join our facility. We also use TouchNet. We are looking into Fusion because our members at this point can join at any point in time. So there's no no date, so they can't have like they have to join the first of the month. They can join any day of the month, which makes processing absolutely crazy. So every day we have to process payments, we have to do deposits, we have ACH as well as credit card processing. So this has led us to start thinking of, okay, maybe we start to do periods of quote, quote, enrollment. So if they want to join monthly with the monthly draft, then maybe we do the 1st and the 15th that they can join, so that when payments come out, it's the 1st and the 15th. And if we have to pause any payments, then of course there's only a certain period of time when we have to close or have to pause them. And then of course for our semesterly, so we have August through December. And then of course our terms, our annual terms. So this has given us a real big opportunity and eye-opening in terms of we actually did process some refunds and prorations for our members. And through TouchNet, we have to go through manually. So that's what we are actually in the process of doing. And everything else that everyone has said about having to go through the lines of hierarchy in terms of getting that approved. We couldn't just issue refunds or extend the expiration dates. It actually had to go up to our vice chancellor. So this is what we as a group decided to do. So now we're in that process of refunding and prorating for our members. And it's been a very enduring process. It's a very long process because we're having to actually, since they do go through and have payments every single day. So we might have a payment that actually, their payment one might have been February 28th, but they pay in advance. So that February 28th payment extends into the time that we were closed. So we've had to do a lot of percentage calculations and prorations. So this has given us, like, again, a really eye-opening experience as to, okay, well, maybe going forward, we should think about limiting the time periods that people can join.
Yeah, at Clemson, we allow people to join at any point in time, but everybody has the same expiration date. So students run with the academic semester, so fall, spring, summer 1, summer 2, but then for anybody else, so we have community, alumni, faculty, staff, all of them can join as well. If they buy a 6-month membership, you either end December 31st or June 30th at the end of the fiscal year. And if you do 12 months, regardless of when you sign up, you always end on June 30th. So that makes things a little bit easier for us because we can just kind of figure out for each of those different price ranges what our prorations are going to look like for refunds. I can't imagine if my brain would explode. I'm not a math person if I had to do all of that other work.
It's been crazy. It has been absolutely, it's been days, and there's 3 of us that are working on it. So we literally have split it up between the 3 of us, and pages of memberships and rates. But everyone's been appreciative so far. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a couple of people who are curious about rewards programs. I was wondering if anybody could speak on if they have rewards programs for their members.
And on top of that, someone at the beginning in the chat, just some special deals that you maybe are planning for. I know we're very much all in reactive mode, potentially still, not really thinking projecting. So if anyone's thinking about that already, maybe this is a good space. Any special deals, any rewards programs you're thinking of implementing after all this?
Get people back.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've looked into a couple. The challenge, I think, will be right now we are losing a bunch of revenue, and our programs are losing revenue, and membership kind of funds some of those programs when they're not doing so well. So to be able to request funding for something like a rewards program might be a little difficult. So if anyone knows of any free programming or does a little coding on the side and wants to help out, let us know. But Perkville has been one that's been on my radar for a while, and I see in the chat a couple of people use it. So I'm curious what kind of rates you're looking at, or does that, are any of you in the same predicament where you might have to hold off on making any big purchases like this in the future?
Hey, Rhonda, I just saw that you requested another call to talk about incentives to increase income. Definitely something we were going to talk about that at the end, about whether or not we wanted to continue some of these chats. Member services, we kind of sometimes get overlooked, but we are also very important, as I think everybody is realizing in this crucial time frame, just how much we do for our institution. So yeah, definitely we'll talk with NIRSA about getting some more of these set up. So.
Just for like membership specials. So this was way before this, but this is something we at Oakland University have been doing kind of to boost we have 1 month, 4 month, and 12-month memberships. They all end on the calendar date. So again, we're in that situation of all expiration dates are all over the board. So that's going to be interesting going forward and adding those extra times. However, we have done membership sales. If people purchase a 4 or 12-month membership, we offer an extra month for free. It gets them out of that 1 month range, but it also doesn't cost anything to us because we're already paying the higher rate. And all of our payments currently are upfront. That will be changing once we transfer to Fusion. We will have electronic fund transfers. But is that something anybody else has done? We've seen extreme success with it. Prior to going into this crisis mode, we were up a lot on revenue this year in membership, just based off of these. We ran the special twice, and we saw probably about a 20% increase in jump. And then just with that, we did an incentive program with our own student staff. So we did an upsell competition, which my staff is really competitive. I feel like most rec sports staffs are competitive. So we did an upsell competition, and I want to say in the month of December, we had over 300 upsells from a 1 month to a 4 or 12 month. It was very successful. So wondering if anyone does that, or maybe that's something that we think about as we go into this new time, maybe where we're asked to create more revenue.
Yeah, this is Beth from Miami again. We're definitely looking at doing those kinds of sales, and we've already got the marketing folks working on whenever we open, we need to hit this hard. Something that somebody else in the department has noticed too is we've seen a lot of things on social media from like the Anytime Fitness and some of the kind of corporate gyms that they're not doing anything for their members and they're not responding, and people are getting pretty angry. So we kind of want to find a way to go and scoop those people up and to try to work some kind of deal that, hey, if you lost your membership at another place, we'll honor whatever, however many months you had or something like that, to try to scoop those people up and try to do specials. But we definitely are thinking of the sign up for an annual, get 2 months off, things like that, just to do some kind of big push as soon as we can open, because we are open to community, silver sneakers, and faculty, staff, and everybody as well. So we definitely want to try to get those people we lost back in the door. Yeah.
So we've had a few people mention being concerned about when we return and when we open, if we're going to have enough staff to open our facilities. Yes, I'm concerned about that too. And how are we keeping our staff engaged, and how are we paying them? Or have the university, this is something that I've noticed in other roundtables that comes up. It's like, how are we paying our students? Are we paying our students, or are we laid off? But I think I'd like to look at, do we have enough staff to run member services, or for me, operations? I don't know yet, for me.
I was going to say, I don't know. We're in talks with our facility side that has our building managers. A lot of them have actually come from member services. So we're talking about sharing staff to start out. I've been watching the chat, and it seems like a lot of you have, I know Victoria too, like they are still paying their students to do some remote work and have like an entire list of things that they can do. Is anybody else currently paying their students? Is that the way people think they're going to keep them engaged?
Hey, this is Dejanay from UC Davis.
Hey.
Hi. So currently it's a hot mess, y'all. But I will say that one thing our director and like our AVC is really, really passionate about is trying to engage these students in some way, shape, or form. Now, at first, if you're anything like, oh, I'm assuming like me, of course, in member services, you're like, I have a million things to do. How can I engage these students and answer a ton of emails. So we've been trying to get creative. We have what's called I think it's called learning management system. It's LMS system with trainings, and it's how they do all of their like cash handling, anything from like hazardous spills, etc. So we've actually allowed our staff to go on there and look for things that they'd be interested in learning about, and have allowed them to brainstorm that to see what they would like to bring back to our department to try and keep them engaged in talking with us and trying to get them hours. And our director has approved us, like however long the training is, whether it's 3 hours, 2 hours, 30 minutes, etc., that they can add those as work hours to their timesheets that we have right now. But it's challenging, I will say that. We're anticipating we're probably going to lose 20 to 30% of our staff, most of which, a lot of mine were seniors that are going to be graduating and are not coming back, especially with UC Davis being all online spring quarter. So we're trying to, as best we can, share staff as well. So thankfully our building supervisors got trained in memberships, and they know how to do everything my member services leads do. So I can kind of share them with my facilities coordinator. But yeah, any type of trainings, I'm still trying to do like monthly check-ins to see, with our spring quarter kickoff, to kind of engage them and see if they're still returning or who's in Davis versus who's like maybe down in Southern California or maybe farther north than Davis. So that's something that we're doing as far as like looking up different trainings and seeing what they're interested in, and then holding like these monthly meetings to kind of just engage them and see how school's going, see how their families are doing, etc.
That's awesome. I mean, we've been doing hiring for student staff. I've been using Google Meet with about 4 other students, so I am paying students remotely to do that. I think it's very interesting because I think at Oakland University, and there might be very similar universities out there, we have not taken a stance on paying our students or not yet. It's mostly been, well, you can request students to do remote work, but it's like on an individual basis of approval. So our AVP has to approve anyone who's going to be remote working and what they're doing. So I'm watching the chat, and there's a lot of you who are paying your students, which is awesome. I think that's a way to get them back. For some of you, I'm just going to pose the question that aren't paying their students. Do you have a plan in place to try to get them back?
So real quick, at Clemson, we're doing conditional offers. So we're going to interview you now, and we're going to offer you a conditional position of employment, obviously pending being able to reopen when we reopen, those types of things. I did hear another chat today. I don't know, my payroll folks, if anybody out there is business office folks, if you can verify this, that the government is allowing virtual or online I-9 forms to be filled out now. So Taylor, yeah, great.
Working through that process because I manage payroll for our department too. So just managing student onboarding and how to figure that out. But I can send that out in a later date, or however we connect again after this. We could talk about it.
So we're kind of almost nearing the end of our time. I have a whole list of things we can continue to talk about. I'm sure you guys have some too. As we all know, this is going to be posted that we can relook at it. The Zoom chat will be there as well. Are people interested in doing another roundtable through NIRSA? I mean, I know our group is definitely willing to host again. We've been talking about it on our time, and we're yes. I see all the yeses. Perfect.
Thank you. We're going to present there. So we were
going to present at NIRSA, like the let's chat the ins and outs of member services. So we are prepared to talk with all of you about the ins and outs of member services. I think I'm just going to take a little plug, and ladies, stop me if I'm ranting, but I think member services, and Nina, you're going to be here in this too, because we were at NIRSA school together. We definitely need to take a stance in NIRSA and advocate for ourselves and make ourselves known. Our stories are important, just as IMs, group X, everything like that. I think as we continue to go into this situation, preach, thank you, Christy. Member services is going to really have to take the front end of this. As we all know, we're going to be working our butts off the minute we get back in the office to make our buildings open right on time. Thank you for keeping on that soapbox. I will. Everyone knows, if you guys know me and if you don't know me, I'm very strong in wanting to advocate for member services. So I would just say for all of us, like, let's continue to do so. Let's continue the conversation. If anybody wants to add in, we can. But I'm going to open it up for any final comments. I think we definitely need to talk further about staff engagement, member retention efforts as we go forward in this thing. So if anybody wants to add in any final comments, we'd love it. And then if not, we will definitely, based off the comments, be scheduling another roundtable with NIRSA.
We'll try not to make it at 4 o'clock on a Friday next week or next time.
Those of us on the West Coast don't mind. Yeah. I would like to add something to what Megan said about memberships. It has been a philosophy of mine for 11 years, having worked in memberships, that memberships is a program. So it's part of the programming.
One last thing, because we've got about 9 minutes. Nina, for Fusion, did you just edit your like custom date ranges or semesters, or how did you go about doing that? Did you like download and re-import your members?
So we did two things. With all of our memberships that we import, so for instance, our students who pay fees and therefore get an automatic membership, those we just adjusted the membership dates, excuse me. For all of our other memberships, all of our purchased memberships, Fusion actually, and I think it was MC, she was able to create a script which she ran. So what I told her is the amount of time that I wanted to extend it, which was 3 months. I'm assuming we're going to be closed that long. If it's shorter or more, we can extend or fix it. But she runs a script and sends a report. Now, the not so fun part is that you get to create an import format for every membership type that you're importing for. And it's a little bit of work, but we all have lots of time now. And I will say that it's really nice because you don't have to do anything to the original purchase. The original accounting log stays exactly the same. They just get imported an additional membership for the amount of time that you're extending it. And you can set that for everyone in the import formats. Instead of setting the membership in the import format, you set a certain field option. And so it'll read based off of what the report says. So it really, honestly, when it came down to running the imports itself, it took maybe an hour and a half. So it's really not bad, and I think it's going to be really helpful.
Hey, Nina, quick question. Is this only for imported memberships, or can you do this for like your annual memberships that expire on like random days?
Right. So the second part, the script that MC ran is for those annual memberships. So, and it's really more than annual. We also offer one month, 2 week, 3 month, 6 month memberships as well. So it's all of the memberships that have been purchased. So you would just choose which specific membership you're assigning for that 3 month period. And it'll read the file that MC provides for the dates that you want to set it to.
I like.
Yeah.
Whatever work it takes is less than what it would be to manually adjust every single person.
Right. Yeah. I had started with an Excel spreadsheet where I was freezing everything individually, and I was like, oh dear God, no. So, yeah. If anybody has any like additional questions about that, I put my email in the chat. Like, you can email me anytime about Fusion. Happy to help.
Yeah, and if you guys aren't part of the memberships or member services, NIRSA Community Connect, I don't know the order of those words, whatever, join it so we can all stay in touch that way too.
Yes, please.
Perfect. Any final comments from anyone? If you guys want to throw in the chat like topics you want to cover, I've already seen some. For the next time, we definitely will go over. We'll get together and talk about all of that. It's been great chatting with you guys today. I love our little unique community, so keep it up. And, you know, we'll keep it on, and everyone hang in there. Enjoy the weekend. Hopefully have beautiful weather. So.
Yeah, and hopefully in future ones, we have an opportunity to really talk about what we do and not just the fires that we're putting out right now.
I think we tend to put out the fires too, but you know, yeah, I agree. Okay, I think we're ending here if no one has anybody else. Like I said, we're all on the Connect. We've posted there many times. We were about to, do our membership presentation and got some topics from you guys. So I think we already have some insights on what some people want to hear about. So again, thank you everyone. I think there were like a peak of 140 something people on this call. So our community is strong. So we'll get it through it together, guys. See you later.
Bye, family.
Everyone, thank you for coming.